okay. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So I am here interviewing Diana Calantoni today. And I first want to thank all my students for the work that you guys put into proposing a lot of these questions that we're going to talk about. I shared them with her so that she could prep on her own and we could stay focused. And then I have a printout and I think she's got a printout. So we'll probably both be referring to that during this interview. But just a little bit of background. I worked with Diana at JLA, which is a sleepwear company, but they also started a small division of apparel focusing on the sleep in the lounge. What I meant to say is JLA is actually a home company, and that was their main focus. And so we were part of this tiny little division that got started to really launch their sleepwear and loungewear program. And Diana came in about a year into the launch, and it was so incredible working with you. I saw like a drastic difference from the last day of the old person and the first day of you coming in, and just the engagement was so much better. I felt like our line was so much tighter. We were ready to go to market. All the work that we put into our samples and our line sheets, you were part of it. And so as your role kind of has evolved with this company, and I'm no longer with them, but you still are, I'm really glad to have this opportunity to talk to you on how you kind of came to your position and what you go through on a day-to-day basis. So first, I believe I got your title wrong. Even though I wanted you to be the VP of merchandising and sales, you're still the director, but that's just as fancy, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so tell us, if you could just give us a little introduction about, where you studied, about your job, what kind of got you there, and I know it's a loaded question, and your future dream jobs, like what is that?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Palesa, for that very nice introduction. And every day working with you was absolutely inspiring, efficient, fun, never a dull moment for sure. Um, I'm so flattered and happy that you asked me to do this interview with you today for your students at Columbia College, Chicago. I graduated from the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City with a bachelor's in fashion merchandising management. My current job is with JLA Home, who provides lifestyle brands to all tiers of distribution, from department stores to off-price chains, mass retailers, clubs, specialty e-commerce, and we are a growing division, as you mentioned. My current role at JLA is directing all the functions of the apparel division, which includes sleepwear, lounge, as you mentioned, for men, women, and kids now, and also day dresses. So it's been really exciting.
Oh, cool.
And a fun-filled journey. As far as my dream job, I love that you asked me that from the get-go. I would say that my dream job is truly to continue upward in my career path, to continue meeting, inspiring designers like yourself and professionals in our industry, and perhaps when the time is right, collaborating with one of them to create, the ideal work environments where we have the, best, most seasoned, passionate employees, and we're creating apparel and accessories that we're truly passionate about, manufacturing in an eco-friendly way, keeping the earth happy, keeping our consumer happy, and being able to give back to society when we can. So I think that would truly be the dream job for me. And that is what I work towards every day.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we get so caught up in kind of making sure we hit minimums and that the price is right for all of the product out there. It's really nice to kind of always know in the back of your head that you really want those goals, and they're very current goals. It's so nice that so many people are thinking about this now. I feel like they're attainable goals, where before they were just kind of, we sounded like a bunch of dreamers when we talked that way before.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think we've evolved and the time is right. So it's an exciting thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so cool. So I'm going to dive right into the questions. And I thought the first thing to lead with is the giant elephant in the room. And that's me after all the weight I've gained during COVID.
Not true at all. Okay.
Okay. No, it is COVID. That is the elephant in the room. So how has your career been impacted by the pandemic? What changes have you had to make? And are your responsibilities harder to manage because of COVID?
Yeah. So the pandemic has absolutely impacted my career and the way that I work, both negatively and positively. You know, like everyone else, we had to quickly adapt to the work from home. And, you know, in an industry like our own, where we're accustomed to, and quite frankly, took for granted the amount of in person meetings that we had and used to complain about.
Right.
The showroom presentations to our buyers, you know, garment fittings on models, you know, photo shoots, etc. How are we going to manage all of this virtually? We were right from the get-go stunned. What are we going to do? We then had store closures for what seemed to be for an indefinite amount of time. You know, what would we do with all of our merchandise? We had merchandise overseas that was getting ready to get on a boat to come to us. We had to quickly put a halt to that. That cost money. You know, we had goods on the way to our warehouse already, but we had nowhere to put them because our warehouses were backed up. So that merchandise was in a room that we weren't financially prepared for there. You know, our retailers' warehouses were backed up, you know, and they wanted to but couldn't help alleviate any of the room for us. You know, their stock rooms are backed up and their racks were full, but the doors were closed. So I would say that was up front from the get-go, the scariest part of the pandemic for us in retail. You know, once the doors reopened, then it was at limited capacity. And guess what? She has less money in her pocket, or she's not willing to spend as much as she had previously.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so then markdown strategy quickly came into place. How can we reduce the costs for the ultimate consumer to make it more affordable for her and take some worry and weight off her shoulders, you know, but not sink ourselves? So that took a lot of strategy and, you know, a lot of meetings with markdown.
Wow.
Yeah, my responsibilities certainly have become more difficult to manage. I think we're constantly in survival mode now. And I think that will continue on well into 2021, you know. So, you know, on a positive note, though, I would like to say that our company really was fortunate in the aspect of what arena are we in? We provide home fashion for the home. People are at home. So,
Yeah.
right. So when the stores closed, we noticed our e-commerce was taking off. People were buying new bedding. They were realizing perhaps they need to, you know, reinvent their bathrooms, new curtains, new rugs, new light fixtures. You know, they wanted to up their pajama game. Yeah, upping the pajama game was really great. We noticed, you know, for example, that our solid PJs were really taking off. We're thinking she wants to stay in her PJs for a few extra hours in the morning, but make it feel like it's a solid outfit, you know? I do that.
Totally.
And our lounge just really took off, where previously our presentations consisted of, you know, 75% sleepwear, 25% lounge. It's now shifted. She wants to wear loungewear. She wants to wear, you know, really comfortable items that can pass for a Zoom meeting and you can go to the grocery store and look presentable. So we really tweaked our design in that sense for the future. And, you know, on another positive note, I do want to say that I've never before seen or even anticipated our partners really coming together the way that they did. Our international partners at the factory level, you know, our US retailers, you know, our licensing partners, just really collaborating and coming together to strategically make sure that we all turn up on the other side. You know, knowing that we're all going to take a hit, but what can we do to help alleviate the pain, you know, give and take. And it was just really heartwarming to see those partnerships come together. So I think the relationships that we've developed over the past decade or more have really shown through during this very trying, year. So
Wow, that's so good to hear, because it is a cutthroat business. I
yeah.
mean, everybody is trying to almost squeeze the life out of you. And to know that despite all of that, those partnerships are there, and we all need each other to survive. Need the factories, need the buyers, need the stores, need strategies. Um, that's really great to know.
Yes.
Um, Awesome. It wasn't one of the questions, but you've also had growth in the business too, right? You've been able to grow the division even during this because of the nature of the business, right?
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely. Our home division, really performed well. Our division, we've expanded categories. We've moved into men and kids, whereas before our primary focus was women's, but now, everybody's at home. So let's make family pajamas, and let's make it fun. And we've expanded into daytime casual dresses because we want it to be a casual look, but still feel almost like pajamas, because we're at home, we need to be comfortable. And it's been a really, really great run for us, So.
Very cool. I'm gonna have to pick your brain. I need to design a sweater dress, and I'm kind of like, what does that look like?
Oh,
But
good.
that'll come after.
Let's
We'll
revisit
do that
that.
offline.
I'm
Yeah.
I already have some wheels spinning up there.
Nice. Okay, so that's really great. That's really like so current, so important. So I'm so glad, that you still have your job, that the division that we started not too long ago is still running. I mean, so many businesses have had to close, and it's just such great news, and such a great testimony to how you guys are running things. Um, so then I got a lot of questions from the students, like about how you got started. And I think that, and honestly, there were so many questions, and I wish we could answer all of them. But I think I narrowed it down in such a way that they are questions that you can answer. These aren't like kind of mystery questions, that aren't really fit to our backgrounds. But so the ones that we kind of mashed together. The first question I have for you is, how would you say that your past jobs got you to where you are? And did you ever do any internships or apprentices with the FIT program? Was that part of their curriculum? It's such an important part of the curriculum now, but I feel like when we were in school, that it was, if you did it, you did it. If you didn't, there wasn't an actual incentive to do it, or somebody really pushing you.
Yeah,
So tell us a little bit how you got started.
yeah, absolutely. Great question, students. This is the fun stuff. So all of my past jobs absolutely got me to where I am today. It's really important in your career that you really absorb and try to get as much knowledge out of every single one of your roles. My first internship through FIT was actually a requirement. So,
Ah,
yes, so that was with Armani Exchange, and I got to dig back in my memory and remember how it all happened. We sat down with the counselors individually, and they let us choose, which brand we felt most kinship towards. And then once we picked the companies, we had to interview with them, and we got selected. Then we would have to pick which department we wanted to intern for. Um, and it was interesting. I actually was a production intern. I don't think you ever knew this about me, Palesa.
no.
Yeah, so I still remember every aspect of that job. And I remember the reason I picked it is because I'm like, what does that mean, production? And the definition that they gave them, I don't remember verbatim, was somewhere along the lines of the production team is responsible for making sure that the product is produced exactly how it was designed, and negotiating costing with the factory to make it profitable and delivering it on time. And I was like, that sounds all
That's
extremely important.
Yeah, right.
So
Like
I'm
that's
going to go for
everything.
that one. So yeah,
Awesome. Of course, I love it.
Yeah, so I of course interviewed for that, and they selected me, and I'm still in touch with that human resource manager that placed me in that role because it was the best first role I could have asked for as a student. Um, I really got to observe everything it took into truly making that product, you know, the way it was anticipated and the way that it would perform well for the ultimate consumer. So um, my internship was 3 months long, so I'm not sure how it works these days. But I remember mid through my internship, I gained enough courage to ask my supervisor if there was any way that I could also, if it didn't take away from any of my work, observe some other departments. And she graciously
Oh,
accepted. And I was able to sit in other department areas and really just see what they do, you know. So everything was brand new to me. I was just a sponge absorbing everything. I sat in on a fitting with live models. I saw what it took to really get a garment to truly fit. I sat in on marketing meetings, which was absolutely exciting and frankly overwhelming. I was like, wow, there's a lot that goes into marketing. Kudos to those people. Um, you know, I sat in on design concept meetings, which I decided, you know, I'm not a true designer, but for sure for the rest of my career, I am going to work hand in hand with designers because they're my favorite people. So I then thankfully was able to sit in on a really good sales meeting. And that's truly what put me where I am today. And thankfully it was a good meeting because you know how some bad sales meetings make you want to run for the hills. This
yeah,
was fantastic. I was so captivated with the way that the presenter was so passionate about the product in her hands, and the designer was right next to her explaining where her inspiration came from, and they were so knowledgeable about who they were presenting it to, and the rapport between the buyer and the seller and the designer was just so exciting, you know, and authentic. And I thought that's
yeah.
what I need to do. So that's really from that
It's
experience.
almost like you're describing how we used to work together.
It's exactly, literally. I'm
I,
not even kidding. Yeah. So from that experience, I applied for a sales assistant position with Alice and Olivia, and I got it. And it was really
yeah.
fun. It was a small company. It is a small company. Um, personnel wise, I think we were 30 people in the office at that time, and it was very fast
Wow.
paced and a little bit cutthroat. And it was such a great thing to see from the get go. I've worked my way up in sales and really was able to circle back to getting back into merchandising, which I'm very proud of. Today, I'm directing sales and merchandising, and I'm so passionate about it. It just seems so effortless yet challenging at the same time, if that makes sense. Um,
Yeah,
it's such a pleasure to work with designers like you. So, yeah, for sure, all of my jobs really got me to where I am today.
that's super cool. Yeah, the beginning, the first jobs, the first internships, like you said, being a sponge and having those opportunities. I'm I there have I've seen people that have had not so great opportunities, but it's so great to hear about your great opportunity. I actually had some really great opportunities. I had some kind of weird opportunities, but it's good. I think it's good for the students to know that that's out there, that they should really push themselves to get what they want out of that experience,
For sure.
right? Because they're there to learn. They're not there to be a slave to anybody, and they're not there to just go and get coffee as they do in the Devil Wears Prada. They're there to learn.
Of course, of course. And if you're getting coffee, you make sure you get the best coffee.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. So so after, you kind of like started your career, you've done a couple jobs and learned a lot. I know that I really, like I had mentioned in the beginning, I really enjoyed working with you because you are so focused and you really spend the time on making sure that whatever you're working on has been well thought out. I don't think you've ever sent an email or put together a line plan request that is just off the cuff. And so I was just wondering, and I think the students are wondering too, is how you've invested in your career after school And a lot of the students are also asking how to network. Like, how do you get to know these people and how do you put yourself out there?
Yeah, great. Great questions. So I know you've heard this a million times, but never stop learning. It's the truth. I've definitely invested in continuing education since I graduating. I still do today. Um, I remember, for example, an example of taking some continuing education. I was handed some department stores to handle, and department stores require a lot of retail math. You got to know a lot about profitability and loss. And I wasn't brushed up on it because the previous few years I hadn't worked on those types of accounts. So I thought, oh, let me pull out my retail math textbook from college. And I pulled it out and I'm like, yeah, I'm not reading this. So I contacted FIT and I secretly took a night course in retail math that I had already taken in
Ah,
college. And it really helped me. And that's just the kind of thing you need to do. For example,
yeah.
design, if you need to brush up on your um, PowerPoint skills or whatever you need to brush up on, do so. Take a course. There's a lot of YouTube these days. I don't think that was so popular back in our day.
Yeah.
Um, but another example of taking some more classes to try to, improve myself is I remember when I got promoted to one of my positions, I had to present to, high level professionals, higher level than I had previously. And it made me very, very nervous. And I thought, wow, what am I going to do? So I thought, okay, I know my product and I did the account research and all of that, but I need to brush up on my confidence and my presentation skills. So I looked into, believe it or not, speech therapy classes because I wanted to be able to articulate my words properly and make sure I was getting my message across as effectively and efficiently as possible because these people don't have a lot of time. Uh,
Right.
yeah, so it was really just such a great experience. And it helped build my confidence and certainly helped my presentation skills till this day. And I'm still in touch with that person that helped me. So I would suggest taking a look at your every role that you're in and identifying what's your strength and your weakness and really trying to improve your weakness and absolutely reach out to people and never be ashamed of retaking a class you already took in college. And as far as networking, yeah, networking is of utmost importance. Relationship building, absolutely. After Alice and Olivia, my first substantial sales job was for a sleepwear brand, and through my coworkers, I learned about a club called Under Fashion Club in New York City. And this club specifically caters to the intimate apparel and sleepwear industry. They
Oh,
provide,
cool.
yeah, they provide networking opportunities, panel discussions, seminars. They always support new talent. So you'll get a presentation from a new designer or, a new business model someone wants to present. And it was a really great way just to connect with people who do the same thing as you and really stay in the know with current events of the industry. So I would recommend looking into these types of organizations in your area that really cater to what you specifically do and meet your peers, meet some of your competitors. It's great to talk to you. It's kind of weird sometimes to be like at cocktail hour with your competitors. But, if we didn't learn anything from this year, it's that we all need to succeed. So, you can gain
Mhm.
knowledge from your competitor and maybe one day work with them. Um, and I also stayed in touch with my teachers and professors. You know, as I moved on in my career, I would learn more and more about myself, and I would keep my professors informed, and that would help them give me advice or connect me to more people who could, help lead me down the right path. So those are all great ways for networking and really staying sharp and polished throughout your career.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's all about relationships, everything. And I think that taking those opportunities really kind of like you said, this organization that you sought out in New York that specified in sleep and intimate. I mean, that's exactly the industry that you were in at the time and are in today. I mean, I guess in New York, they literally have everything, something for everybody.
Yeah.
But I can think of like our students that are in Chicago and then students that I've taught out here in California. You know, there's always like the merchandise mart where there's different organizations that are regionally specific that you can ask for a directory of who's ever registered with them, and then just doing your own homework by finding out what you would want to learn more about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the things that we do at Columbia, which I love, is there's always a lot of sort of roundtable discussions, and like this, what we're doing right now is getting to know people in the industry, learning what they do, what's out there for you, and maybe exploring. For example, I did a discussion with some people first in the semester, and we had a zipper rep that I worked with from YKK, and I think I've told you, she loves her job, and she talks about her job. You'd think that, you know, she was flying around the world as if she was Karl Lagerfeld, you know, like in a zippers.
Yeah.
And one of my students was like,
Yeah.
I never even thought about zippers.
Right. Yeah.
So there's like opportunities for us everywhere. I love that. And I love that you share that. And I love, I've told you this before, but I love that you've taken these classes on how to present better. We could all do that. I definitely been inspired by that. And then, so another question on kind of getting started, and I think this is a great question that they asked, mistakes. Like what kind of mistake, you know, hindsight is 2020, but are there any mistakes that you made in the beginning of your career that you would warn people about, and things that you definitely would not do and things that you definitely would do? I'm like, you know, replaying history in my head, and yeah, there are definitely
Oh, sure.
things I would have done differently.
Yeah. Yeah. So mistakes. Oh my gosh. Mistakes are so embarrassing. But yes, I've made many and I still make them today, and you'll continue to make them in your career. I'm sure there's some more waiting for me to happen. It's part of the job. It's part of the job. And I really looked at this question twofold. There's human error mistakes, and then there's trial and error. Human error, entering the wrong cost on a cost chart, you know, that could end up being a big deal if it's not caught. You know, putting the wrong fabric content on your item and then your sample comes and it's the wrong weight, that could end up being a huge deal. That's human error, and that's detail orientation. That's really important. And I've certainly made those mistakes. We're all human beings, we make them, but try your best to avoid them. You know, not preparing for a meeting is mortifying. Absolute, I've done it. Don't do that. Prepare for every single meeting that you go to. That's a definite don't as a newbie and forever in your career. Then trial and error is something I really want to talk about. These types of mistakes are the ones that you learn from and will actually help you grow in your career. Someone told me once, if you want to succeed, take responsibility, make decisions, stand behind them, have facts, feel it in your core. And, you know, if it pans out, there's going to be no better feeling than that. Sometimes it's not going to pan out. The person who you presented it to is like, no, I don't want that. You have to do this all over again, or what are you thinking? And you're going to be called in to the office or to your, you know, boss's whatever space, and they'll be like, what were you thinking? And as long as you, as a professional, really felt passionate about that decision you had to make, you know, and here's the reasons I did it. And yeah, it didn't work out, and I can see why, and I'm going to do better next time. that's trial and error. And that's a really important part of your growth in your career. As you move up, you're going to have more responsibility. There's going to be times that you're going to have to single-handedly make a big decision, or even a small decision that it's going to be all on you. So take responsibility, like that mentor of mine told me. It's the absolute truth. And it could be embarrassing in the moment, but and it might take you weeks or years to get over, depending on how big it is. But all my mistakes have really, really also gotten me to where I am today. So I would say, from things to do as a newbie, definitely show up on time for your new job. Understand the expectations. Yeah, I know. Definitely understand the expectations of your role, and don't be afraid to ask questions if anything is unclear. Know what's expected of you, and communicate really well with your superior or your boss or your supervisor. This is, like you said, a cutthroat, very fast-paced industry. So time management is going to be a huge thing that it's important to understand and adapt to from the get-go. Understand your task list, understand the priorities, know what needs to get done today and what maybe can wait till tomorrow morning. Understand all of these small things. It's really going to help you in each of your roles. Give yourself goals and milestones. I've always done this and I still do it. And when you achieve them, share them with your boss, share them with your peers, and inspire others with them. If you don't achieve them, try to figure out why, and try to figure out if the goal was even a realistic one, and tweak it, learn from it, So those are definitely things to do as a newbie. And I think the one of the last important things I want to add here is one of the things that I did from the get-go is, once I felt like, I was 6 months in or 9 months into the job, and I think I got it down, but I know that I'm not going to be promoted for like another year or two. I'm going to be doing this job. I don't want to run on autopilot. I don't want to become complacent. So I am going to be the one who pushes myself to learn new things whilst making sure that I achieve all of my tasks at hand. I used to walk the floor of my company. At that point, I was at a much larger company, 450 people. And I would walk the, sourcing floor and talk to the people who were negotiating costs for us and finding zippers and seeing how passionate they were about the zipper. I was going to the sewing room and watching all of these sewers work hard. And it was because of them that, in case the factory didn't forgot to submit one of our samples, these sewers were making it happen for us. We had a sample to bring to our meetings. So how important are they? Speaking with my designers, hey guys, how can we, do you have a minute? Let's have lunch. Let's talk about what's going on with you guys in the design world, and let's collaborate together and see what we can do to make our next line stronger and better. So in-house relationship building, for sure, is something that we should do.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the amount of times I can think of the people in my own work that have helped me be better at what I do is almost more important than pleasing your boss. I mean, that is your ultimate goal, but that's what helped you. That's great. Yeah, that's all really great advice. Really great advice. I love that. And you're right, we are going to make mistakes. And I love it when people are responsible for their mistakes, and they can, they can kind of, reflect back on it, because you're right, we all do it. We all screw up. I just got this beautiful bouquet of flowers that I ordered for my mom's friend for her birthday, and they were delivered to me instead of her in Chicago.
That is,
yeah.
So what is that? Does that fall under human error or trial and error? Human error.
I think that is human error, or me trying to do too many things at the same time, which is, yeah.
Learn from the mistake.
Yeah, learn from my mistakes someday. Yeah. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Guess what? We have some more questions. And I think we're doing good on time here. So we've been in about 30 minutes, and we kind of wanted to make this about an hour, so I think we're good. So I was saying how much I liked working with you. I'm going to say it again. And you've been talking about all that you've done to kind of enhance your career, and being a great communicator is huge. I mean, it's such a great skill that we all could do better at. And anyway, you've always been a great communicator. I think that, you know, and obviously not only with me, with the buyers, with the head of our division at the time, or it's still the head of the division, but the sales show it, and the growth and placements and all of that. So so there's proof there. So I wanted to ask, you know, how do you approach working with your design team to get the right product in the showroom for the market? Because ultimately, you know, we take our input and we try to, you know, that's probably the biggest struggle, is figure out what people want. You know, you can't just go to the table and design something cool, as some people think you can. You know, having some direction is vital to having that right product on the floor at market. So how do you approach that with your designers?
Yeah. So every time I work with a new designer, I basically sit down and have a one-on-one with them. Every designer has their own style and their own aesthetic, and I want to get to know where their inspiration comes from. I want to understand what has worked well for them in the past and what challenges they faced in the past. And, you know, with that information, I thoroughly explain my needs. What accounts do I work on, and what is the history with those accounts, and what do those buyers need? And, you know, after in-depth conversations on these topics, we'll then creatively put our minds together and we'll design collections that meet the customer needs, and making sure that we maintain true to our brands at the same time. So yeah,
Right.
a collaborative effort, and really just getting to know your designer is key, or merchandiser.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, one of the things that you also did, and I think, you know, one of the things that makes a product line successful is those constant check-ins, making sure that, okay, you know, we're at the concept phase. Okay, this is what we believe in. Then we're at the line sheet phase. Okay, these are the silhouettes that we need, and really kind of tracking everything, even though ultimately it's not your responsibility to deliver those line sheets, but you're the one selling them. So you have to be invested in their progress.
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
get, you know, and like in my world, that's the same way. Like once I design the product, I have to kind of make sure that, you know, now that we make everything offshore, that my offshore team really understands, you know, what type of sleeve I want, what type of finishing I want, and that all those things are going as planned, and the fit is what we need. It's not just a do your job and then send it off kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes a lot of research and a lot of collaboration with all those different areas, like you're saying, and truly understanding what the needs are of the ultimate person you're presenting it to. So yeah, team effort,
Yeah.
absolutely.
How do you, as a merchandiser, how do you know what the buyer's needs are? How do you know what they want?
Yeah. Yeah. That's it,
That's a
really.
$50 million question.
That is. I'm going to charge you
And
for that one.
sometimes they don't even know what they want. Well, there's most of the time they do.
We do have those types of meetings. But yeah, we learn what buyers' needs are in various ways. Experience with the accounts, relationship building with the buyer, research of the store, analyzing last year's sales, and designing based on all of those facts. Um, Experience and relationship building go hand in hand. What type of buyer are we working with? You know, let's get to know her. Does she buy new trends? Or does she like to replenish last year's bestsellers? Or is it a combination of both? Um, Research the store. What region is it in? What's the average temperature? How heavy or light should our fabrics be? What should our color story be based on the season? You know, what type of customer lives in that region? Are they trend forward or are they more of a reserved consumer? Um, Being very cognizant of pricing. This is absolutely important. Are we dealing with someone like Bloomingdale's who can afford a luxury fabric and some, you know, details on the merchandise? Or is this a mid-tier account or an off-price retailer such as TJ Maxx, who we need to be a little more cautious about the cost of fabric that we're using, you know, and what, you know, the style of design that we're looking to do. Analyzing last year's sales is absolutely important, and you need to stay connected with your sales team for this. Um, it, for example, if we're going to be designing for spring 21, let's look at spring 20. Let's look at those numbers. What had the highest sell-through percentages? Okay, maybe we'll take our top 3 and look at them. The top seller, should we just repeat it? I mean, like, you know, let's say hypothetically it sold out in a week, we couldn't keep it in stock, you know, that might be something that you just repeat exactly. You know, and then you look at the next 2 bestsellers. Okay, she liked them too, so let's update them and freshen them up and slightly modify them because, you know, yeah, she loved them, but she's not going to want to come back and buy everything the same. Maybe just that one like glorious piece, yes, but then she'll want to buy the fresh new look of what she bought last year. And then we'll look at the slow sellers and we will together try to analyze why didn't it sell? You know, was it the fabric? Was it the color palette? Was it the print? You know, was it the style? Goes back to trial and error. You're not going to win them all.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So what can we do? This is when relationship building with the buyer comes into place. Pick up the phone and call her and ask her like, yeah, I'm looking at your selling report and we're designing into next year. So let's hear what your expectations are in filling in those weak spots from last year to make sure that we're covering all of our bases. So, you know, you don't have to always make guesses, you know, make sure that you're in touch with your salesperson who's in touch with the buyer, you know. And yeah, that's basically how we go about doing our best to make sure that we are showing the buyer what she wants to see the day that she's in the showroom or on the virtual meeting these days.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that you say that it's not about guessing, you know, there's so many facts, so many ways to get like hard direction, hard answers, hard numbers. All of that is there. We just have to look at that.
Yeah.
That's great. One of the things that we kind of the students wanted to know about was what was the most challenging time in your career that may have impacted the way you do things now, the way you make decisions now, the way you work.
Yeah.
Was it like is there one, well, I was gonna say, is there one big thing or is it like a concept?
Yeah, I went back and you know, I've had a few challenging times. And I thought a lot about this for the past week. And I have to say, and I know it sounds very cliche, and I know everyone's saying it, but this year has been the hardest in my career, of course. And now, you know, not to go back to the pandemic question, but it is a really important period of time for all of us, you know, and it's going to certainly, in the second half of your question, impact the way that I work forever. You know, so I would say this has been the biggest challenge in my career. Like I said, working from home, we have to manage our daily work and our meetings now virtually at the same creativity level and efficiency as we did face to face. That is very hard in a creative field. You know, we no longer have the office camaraderie where we could come together at any given moment and share our ideas. So now we have to keep ourselves inspired working from home, and we all know that's quite difficult sometimes. You know, it takes a little longer to reach someone. You can't just pop into their office and be like, quick question, you know, I miss those days. And you know, I was joking the other day that I used to complain because it's like, my God, I get off the elevator and like people just constantly come up to me and ask me questions. I would give anything for people to bother me all day long in person.
Right.
So, showroom presentations to our buyers, we took for granted how great those were. We now have to pick up the phone more than ever. So we have to sort of adjust to what is appropriate and respectful in the number of phone calls we're making to those people,
Mm,
cell phones, you know.
yeah.
Strategically, our distribution focus has shifted, certainly to e-commerce, which really helped keep us afloat when stores were all closed. Club business is a huge one. I mean, that's another huge factor that kept us afloat. So people needed to
Mm,
get groceries. That was a necessity during the pandemic. So let's make sure that our space on the tables is up to par and at the right price, because she can just quickly grab that as she's, walking by. So yeah, all these changes certainly change the way that I work today. This challenge has been the biggest and the best of my career. I honestly think that I myself and everyone who I work with has become stronger and even better at their jobs this past year because of this great challenge. I'm watching us persevere and overcome all of these, obstacles, and we're teaming up more than ever to inspire each other. And, in the end, minus the remote working, I hope that all these lessons really stay with us.
yeah. Yeah. That we learned from this
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. It has definitely been a challenge. And it's true. It really honestly brought out the best in a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then we have our moments, our own personal days where we just need to shut down and we need to forgive ourselves for that time. We're
Yeah.
allowed that. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And that's a really good point, because in our go, go, go industry, it's like I sort of used to feel guilty about downtime, but now it's, mental health is something that's very important. And once you take care of your mental health, it's going to show in your work, efficiency and creativity. And also, I mean, to add on to that, like, imagine the day that we're all together working in person again. Like, how excited are we going to be? That product's going to be
Right.
amazing. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I remember that first like week after when we were required to stay at home and we finally left the house and we were going on a walk. I was on a walk with my girls and we saw people that we didn't know. And collectively, we were so excited. We were, we're like, hi, like,
Yeah.
we're humans.
I
This
know.
isn't normal. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, we have to kind of remember that. Even though some people are doing fine with it, it's okay not to be comfortable with this, and I think the students are definitely having as much of a hard time, if not more of a hard time with this than the adults in the room.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I want to tell you guys, the students, that I, when I was thinking about this question, I was going back and forth between, when I was new in the industry, it was the financial crisis of 2008. That was a huge
Mm,
challenge as well.
yeah.
I had to choose between the two challenges to answer the question, but I feel for you guys, but I want you to look at it on a positive way and stay inspired and motivated, because you are in college during this global pandemic and you're going to witness and hear all these stories about how people are persevering and overcoming on a professional level and on a personal level. And that's really going to set a really strong standard for you from the get-go. And, and it could really put a positive twist on how you
Hmm.
step out into the professional world. So stay positive and stay inspired and, keep going.
It'll be over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Um, so one last thing that's also kind of, how do you deal with this? Is how do you deal with a situation? And this kind of is taking a left turn, but I think this is good, a really good question. How do you deal with a situation when you don't love the product, but
Yeah.
have to sell or merchandise it? I mean, we're all not all the jobs that you have are the perfect jobs. You end up in dealing with a product that you might not relate to. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a good left turn and good question. Um, because it's a challenge. But what you have to realize, what I realized, is we won't always personally want to wear ourselves what we are designing for our accounts. You know, if it's your label with your name on it, different story. You're probably going to want to wear every
Right.
piece, and that's very personal to you. When you're working for a corporation where there's someone else's brand and you're manufacturing for them, you know, the point of designing is not that you can personally take home and wear every piece. It's to meet the needs of the consumer. So keep that in mind. There might be pieces that you absolutely want to wear and love, but make sure that, you know, during the presentation, you still realize that, you know, you're holding up a product that you necessarily wouldn't wear, but the reason you're holding this up is because the person looking at you who's going to buy it really needs it for her stores, and her consumer is going to love it and it's going to sell. And that's what the ultimate goal is. And that's where you can find passion when you're presenting about a product that you yourself wouldn't wear, because it's not only for you. Just keep that in mind. You know, our goal is to bring success to, you know, the retailer, the store, to our brands, and to the happiness of the final consumer. So
Yeah, that's great. Like kind of really taking yourself out of it. It's
yeah,
not a person. If it's not your label, it's nothing's personal. And if
sure.
they don't like it, that's not personal either, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Even if it is
Yeah.
legal, it's not necessarily going to suit everyone, you know? So, yeah, it's, you know, thick skin, and it's trial and error again. And it's having passion behind what you're showing at all times. And, you know, moving forward and staying positive always.
Yeah, that's great. Um, well, this has been awesome. I really want to thank you for this huge chunk of time. And I know you're busy, and I really appreciate all the prep work that you did to answer these questions. The students are going to love hearing all your insights and your feedback. Um, yeah, and so I hope that, tomorrow's Thanksgiving.
Yes.
This wasn't one of the questions. We were actually, the students don't know this, but we were supposed to be hanging out for Thanksgiving, and
Yeah,
because of COVID, we're not.
I know.
So what is going to be your guilty pleasure for Thanksgiving tomorrow?
I am getting together with a neighbor, and we are going to order sushi instead of eating a turkey tomorrow. Because you know what?
Nice.
That's what we want to do.
Yes,
Yeah. So
I love it. That's great. Yeah, we are going to have crab legs, and then I picked up some nice steaks from the butcher today that
oh,
we're going to be for you, but
oh,
next time we'll go back and get them.
yeah,
Yeah,
next year.
I'll eat it for you.
Save them for next year.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm
Wonderful.
going to sign off here, and thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye, students.
Bye.